Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Rage On podcast. I am your host, Dr. Kyle Dean Freeman, men's empowerment coach and licensed physiotherapist. And today I have the pleasure of having on professional basketball player Adam Drexler. Adam and I met in an interesting way. We actually both were on the same reality show. We never got to meet because I got kicked off before he got on the show. It's unfortunate. I know I cried a little bit. But I got to know him a bit after through our group texts and as the show began to come out. And I could tell he was a stand-up guy and had an interesting life. And so, Adam, super happy to have you on here, coming live from Mexico. So thanks for being here, man.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
Yeah, man. So for those who don't know you or don't know anything about your story, could you just share a little bit about originally where you're from, how you grew up, and what led you to playing for the Tijuana Zonkeys professional basketball team today?
Yeah, so I'm from Portland, Oregon originally, born and raised. And for me, originally music was my passion. It wasn't until I hit a growth spurt that basketball came into play. And from there, coaches and your classmates in high school, like, you have to play basketball. You're over 6 feet. So um, from there, I just kind of worked on my game, and it doesn't hurt that my father also played basketball too. It runs in the family. So I just followed that, and that kind of became a new passion of mine. And I was able to go pro and played all over the place. And now I'm back in Tijuana playing for the Zonkeys again. Yeah.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Yeah. So if anyone's listening, if you've heard his last name before, Drexler, his dad is named Clyde Drexler. So you may have heard of him before. And that's actually something I was curious about. I'm sure in your career or just personally in your life, people often think of your dad or the success he's had. Have you ever felt like overshadowed by your dad, or were there ever expectations that people put on you to be of the same success, and how did that make you feel?
Definitely. I think most people, when you do anything, people are always going to compare you to somebody. If you're the best singer, you're going to get compared to other singers. If you're the best, you know, anybody, you're going to get compared to others. And in my case, me and my father are totally different. We play the game in a totally different way, but I think it's very helpful, obviously, to come from a basketball family and have like a legend as your mentor in the
Mhm.
sport. But I think when it comes to playing professionally myself and in my career, I think it definitely hinders me because a lot of people are expecting me to be him, and I play totally different from him. We play two different positions, very different. But to me, I've never felt like it's a shadow thing. I play the game because I love the game. No other reason. I have other siblings, and none of them wanted to play basketball. So, I mean, if he was forcing us to do it, we would all be doing it. But yeah, I fell in love with it on my own. And my father's a very chill guy and kind of just let us find our way. So I found my way to basketball and, amongst other things, reality TV.
Amazing, man. I love that because I'm sure I've seen some of your interviews and I always see people bringing up your dad. And so it's great that you haven't let that impact you as much and allowed yourself to grow into your own individual. Now, with that said, I'm sure many people project their own opinions onto you of from coming from the family you came from, of whatever maybe privileges you had, or you had it easy because you had the dad that you had. Could you share a little bit more about what is actually real in your story, and were there a lot of struggles that you went through to get to where you're at now, not only professionally in your basketball career, but personally as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, a lot of the assumptions are true. I did grow up in a privileged household. I mean, like, my father was one of the biggest NBA players ever, so it's not like I was struggling. I don't have any kind of crazy story where I had to, come out of the, diamond in the rough. No, I had it easy, to be honest. And I had a great father and a great mother. Um, So I basically had all the tools, and from that point, it just comes down to being able to use those tools and make the most out of it. But at the same time, what I guess I've come to find is that it's there's nothing wrong with being born into it. No one controls how they're born, but it's the understanding that you do come from a place of privilege. And to me, when I'm playing basketball, a lot of the people that I play with are come from either nothing or next to nothing or some very big adversity story. And well, I can't say that I haven't had any adversity. I mean, I work very hard at this, but having the knowledge that I play this game purely for passion and it's not out of survival, it's out of love for it. So I try to carry that understanding and also be cognizant that a lot of people would kill to be where I am. So
Mhm.
um, just try to make the most of it and give back when I can, and not try to be someone I'm not, or try to make myself seem more grand than others.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a big reason why I reached out to you, man, is because just in our conversations and the way in which you moved in the world that I saw, you seemed very humble in how you moved. And for a big guy who's got a name behind him, I love that because oftentimes you see people who are in places of power or success that have forgotten that. And so it made me curious as to how you became that way and what drove you to have the passion and the fire coming from that background, whereas all these other individuals who maybe didn't come from much had that hunger because they didn't have anything in life.
Um, I think most importantly, I'm a seeker of knowledge, I guess. For me, I'm naturally someone who's curious about things. I like to know all I can. I like to learn. I just love learning. So I guess through sport and getting to meet so many different people from across the globe who have so many different backgrounds, you kind of get perspective on where you are. I know there are some days that I'd spent, when I was younger, feeling sorry for myself, or this didn't go the way I wanted it to go. But then you meet someone who your worst day is their best day, and it definitely gives you perspective. So for me, it's not really a testament to me; it's a testament to the people around me who have taught me and shown me um, various walks of life that I'm thankful for. So in my eyes, any success I have, it's not attributed to me or anything. It's more attributed to the people around me, amazing friends, amazing coaches, amazing people, good experiences and bad experiences. It's just kind of how life shapes you. And I mean, a lot of people don't approach it that way because I mean, life is only going to teach you what you're open to learning. If you think you know everything, then there's nothing to learn. So I just approach the world in a way that I don't know anything.
I love that, man. I have the tattoo of the Socratic paradox.
Mm.
If you know
Oh
that,
yeah.
it's I know that I know nothing on my
Yeah.
bicep here, and it's
Mm.
a way of humbling myself. And it came from
Mm.
traveling the world myself and going to cultures that I had these preconceptions of, especially the Middle East when I went there. Growing up in New York during 9/11, we had these preconceptions of
Mm.
the Middle East being full of terrorists and bad people. And then I got there and realized, although it was a very different culture, that I met a lot of nice people and just got to see a different part of the world. And you shared a bit about how who you are now is a result of the people you were surrounded with in your life growing up. Is there one specific person that you could credit to building you into this humble yet driven man that you are today?
Um, yeah, I kind of had although my father he's a great father, he was definitely there. He's a busy guy, with basketball and the NBA, and he's doing all this traveling. He's in high demand in other places. So for me and my family, a lot of the time we are kind of raised to kind of do our own thing and find our own lane. So um, when it came to basketball and when I started getting interest in basketball, I kind of didn't have a mentor around at the time. My father, I think, was in China for a long period of time. So I ran across a man named Reginald Barclay, who was kind of he played overseas, very good basketball player, and he was kind of a mentor. He kind of took me under his wing, kind of showed me the game of basketball, and that's kind of where I discovered my passion for it. But more importantly than that, outside of the game, he kind of showed me that you can do other things. At the time, I was thinking, okay, my father is a basketball player. I have to be the best. That's all I'm going to focus on forever. And he kind of put a lot of things into perspective in the way that I should carry myself on and off the court. And he didn't have to do any of that. So I'm really thankful for him. And he's still in my life today. He's kind of like a second father, I guess, or like a brother, a big brother. And I think without him, I'd probably be an entirely different person. And yeah, he's done a lot for me, so I'm very thankful for that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
we all have at least one person that we could go to that we know, whether it was one moment or over the course of years, that has made such an impact in a certain way. Maybe for some, in your case, it was your basketball skills, but in other cases, as you stated, on that more personal level off the court. And, you know, a lot of men out there, they don't have a role model. They don't have a good group of friends. Right now, there's an epidemic of loneliness,
Mhm.
and a lot of men are just hurt and being hurt in general by society, the media, and just being put down, being told they're toxic, or because of their sexuality or their skin color or whatever, that they're not good enough. Did you ever go through experiencing any of that, whether it was being a Black man in society, growing up
Mm.
in Portland, or for any other traits that you have, and what did you do to get through those struggles in life?
Um, yeah, definitely. I think for me, and growing up in a household full of high achievers, my mother is a lawyer. My father's a basketball player. My brother's a computer genius, and my sister is like 2 degrees and Ivy League and everything. And for me, I kind of grew up in this space where I wasn't I'm not an Ivy League person. I wasn't the best student. I definitely wasn't the best athlete either. I mean, I was kind of in the middle on things, and the only thing I poured my passion to was music. And no one in my family plays music, so I
Mhm.
was kind of alone in that endeavor. And I also have this very big social anxiety where it used to be so bad I couldn't talk to people. So I grew up very much alone. Um, I didn't have too many friends. And as I got older, it kind of came out of my shell a little bit. But I've always had this weird fear where I guess a social paranoia where I do feel like people don't like me. And I think for so many years, up until like my mid 20s, I was faced with this weird perception of myself to where I was like, I'm ugly and boring, I'm terrible, and this, and I just would stick to myself about it. And a few years ago, I kind of made the decision to put myself out there and to just kind of live a little bit more with myself and be more comfortable with myself. And I think, I mean, I still work on it to this day, but I found that a lot of the time at the end of the day, no one really makes as big of a deal of it as you do because it's most of it is a perception. So I'm still kind of a loner in that regard, but I've definitely come out of my shell with that, and I've been able to feel less alone and more secure with myself. But at the same time, I think loneliness is something that we as human beings are definitely suffering from right now as in terms of the social climate.
Mhm. I appreciate you sharing that, man, because, when individuals or other men see an individual like yourself who not only has found success through athletics, but also you're a bigger guy. I don't know how tall you are. What, 6'5", 6'6"? What are
Yeah,
you?
6'6". Yeah.
6'6". And there's those issues that men have, whether it's with their heights or their looks or whatnot, where they don't feel man enough. And there's fears and insecurities around that. And I love how you just brought that up, because a lot of men out there might look at you or see other individuals in your place thinking that they don't have or struggle with those same issues that they might. And so I'm curious, what are some of those fears that you do hold when it comes to that social anxiety or putting yourself out there that hold you back?
It's mainly just me thinking I'm not good enough. I think, and a lot of it comes down to, I guess, a perception that you have of yourself. And a lot of people, to me, in the past, I know a lot of people, they hear my last name and they automatically assume this whole story, and that they know they can basically generalize everything I've gone through. And so to me, a lot of the time I felt shame. Um, I
Mhm.
felt so, oh my goodness, I should be ashamed for being born into this family, or I should be ashamed for being tall, or I should be ashamed that I'm an athlete or whatever. And to me, that kind of, when you buy into that, it kind of makes it very easy to put you down. So for me, any kind of negative feedback or any kind of negative, stuff in my ear was just devastating. I think what should have been the happiest moment in my life, when the Rockets invited me to their summer league training camp, and this is, I come from overseas and I didn't have a great college career, so to me the NBA had always been my dream, and I finally get to that NBA, you know, place in life, and it should have been the happiest day of my life. And instead, after I think my first two practices, I went and I made the mistake of Googling my name, and a whole bunch of forums and tweets and stuff pulled up about people just tearing me down, death threats, and you're terrible. You just got here because of your father, this, that, and whatever, and stuff that I just kind of, my biggest fears right there, for everyone to see. And it sent me into a super depression. I think after training camp and everything, I had a little bit of a break, and I took like 1 month and I didn't go outside, and I just stayed in my room, and I was just so depressed. And now looking back, I'm glad I went through that, because knowing, what I can do to myself, because the shame and the negativity around me was me validating their opinions of me, which is a terrible thing to do. I mean, it's one thing to accept criticism, it's one thing to work on yourself, but it's another thing to just beat yourself down.
Mhm.
And it's important to distinguish the difference. And after that, I was able to pick myself up and be proud of myself, but also understand that there's more to come. There's more to do. There's more to do even outside of basketball. So I think that was probably the biggest moment of negativity affecting me. And I still have my moments. There have been days I wake up and I feel alone or isolated. And I know a lot of people think, because of social media or whatever, that I have friends and I'm partying all the time. But I'm kind of a loner in that regard. I have tendencies to just kind of go with the flow. And yeah, just working on finding a balance between trying new things and new experiences, and also working on what I've currently been doing.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
Mm.
It sounds like that was one of the lowest, if not the lowest points of your life.
Oh
Would you say
yeah.
that was?
Definitely. I mean, I had my moments growing up struggling with, like I said before, my family, none of them do music, and to me, music was my passion. I love to create, and I think a few times I'd shared my music with my, mother, father, and they're like, "Well, this isn't Michael Jackson. It's bad. This is terrible. And like, that stuff for me, I'm someone who I smile through a lot of stuff. So you would never know if I'm sad or not because I'm thumbs up. But sometimes that stuff kind of plays with your mental. But definitely that point was where all my friends are seeing the news. I'm in the news. Oh, the Rockets, Adam Drexler, this, that, and they're like, this is so cool. You must be the luckiest guy in the world. And in that
Mhm.
moment, they don't know it. I'm like, I'm about to jump off a bridge. Like I'm, at my lowest. And luckily, I just kind of having a belief in myself that, okay, this is going to pass. And, this is not going to tear me down was
Mhm.
definitely a moment of growth for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many men who are probably listening to this or just in general in the world in those low points or valleys of life at this moment for various reasons, getting broken up with, losing the job, life just isn't turning into what they wished it was. And it's nice to hear, not to say I'm happy you went through it, but you are happy you went through it and got
Yeah.
to the other side to find the strength. And so I'm curious now that you're on the other side of that and going through that pain in the limelight of society. What do you do, especially considering you're traveling all over the world, playing basketball, don't always have stable ground? What do you do to keep your mindset on straight, whether that's through behavioral activities or thought processes or surrounding yourself with certain people to stay on track?
Um, I mean, for me, I wish I had all the answers. I personally, I I take to breathing. A lot of the times I think I overthink a lot of things, so I can lose sleep just thinking about random stuff, and it's not even particularly something that's major going on, but I'll lose sleep over it, and um, I don't really get super stressed, but I do panic sometimes, worrying about, okay, am I where I want to be, or what is going to happen, or what's the future like, or is this going to work? Um, but I realize those are passing moments. You can't spend your entire day sad about something or angry about something. I mean, there's got to be a balance. So I find those moments to be, I accept those moments where I may be sad or maybe unhappy with things. I accept those and I stay there in that moment. And then I search for another moment to where maybe maybe it's a call with a friend and I enjoyed that moment, or maybe I don't know, play a video game and I just enjoyed that moment or that period of time, and I maybe take a walk and enjoy that period of time, look up at the sun and embrace that everything is constant and there's probably somebody in the building next to me going through something even worse, or there's somebody in this same hotel who's having a terrible
Mhm.
day as well, and knowing that the world doesn't necessarily revolve around me and bad and good things happen to everyone.
Mhm.
And it kind of puts a little bit of perspective on it, not to say that it can't make you sad, but it certainly does help me to kind of find that balance.
Mhm.
There's going to be some bad days, but there's also going to be some good days too.
Yeah, yeah. And I hear in what you just shared that there's just finding slowness and presence so you can maybe get out of your head, whether that is
Mm-hmm.
enjoying the sunlight or just sitting down and enjoying a video game and maybe in some ways dissociating for a moment from the pressures of life. But that is really crucial because right now in today's society, we're all so caught up with our phones and external stimulation from so many things grabbing our attention that a lot of us just forget to just slow down and be with ourselves for a moment and check in to see where am I at? What do I need? What am I feeling? And is there anything I need to move through? And, as you move and you're constantly traveling, playing basketball, I know you have your teammates and your coaches everywhere you go, but in what ways does this kind of lifestyle, although many people look up to it and say, wow, that must be amazing to be able to do that. What are the negative sides to it, and how has it impacted you personally, professionally, relationally, throughout your life?
Um, in every way, I think the biggest thing for me is on paper it looks glamorous, but as a friend, from a friendship level, I miss birthdays, I miss important events, I miss weddings, I miss um, the dinners and the stuff. And it's every time I go out for a season, I put my entire life on hold for months and months at a time. So while everybody else is kind of settling down or finding their place, my life kind of gets put on pause in that regard, and I go live a separate life in another country. And so a lot of my friendships have suffered from that. I think a lot of my friends view me as kind of a social ghost. I'm here one day and then the next day I'm gone in another country. So living that kind of life to where you can't plan anything is definitely frustrating. Um, I've even had friends who are like, "Oh, hey, I'm getting married, and 5 months from now, are you gonna confirm?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I'm gonna get a contract or not, and I might be gone." And that's kind of the frustrating part of it, is that I'm trying to make an effort to be a better friend. And as I grow older, I want to be there for my friends. I want to be there for their moments. I want to be there for the birth of their child, or I want to be there, at their wedding. And I want to be able to make new friends. And I think finding that balance to where I'm not just always 100% basketball. And I think that's been the biggest change for me in the past few years, is finding that I have more to life, and that one day basketball is not going to be here. So yeah, I've got to find another way to live life after that. And that was kind of part of the biggest reason why I went on the reality show, was just thinking, okay, I've been Mr. Basketball for, you know, over 15 years. Maybe it's time to just be Adam and
Mhm.
and see where that takes me. And I think that's definitely been a fun process, is rediscovering who I am outside of this lifestyle.
So I love that you shared that at the end, because your identity, I'm sure, has been attached to A, your last name, and B, the sport of basketball. What do you want people to know about who you are, and where do your values truly lie when you're making these hard decisions in life of, do I sign this contract or do I show up to my friend's wedding?
Yeah, before it used to be this pursuit of the NBA. I thought, okay, I if I don't make it to the NBA, it's a bust. And if I don't have a career that's just as great as my father's, then what's it all for? But I kind of found a new meaning in it. But I've also found a new passion for discovering what else I can do. So many times I sell myself short, thinking, okay, well, um, people don't like me, or I don't have a personality that's good enough for people to actually care about what I'm doing. And I sell myself short a lot of the time, and it kind of stops me from doing things. So things like the reality show, or engaging on Instagram, or going out and having dinner with fans, or going to an event, has kind of been something that I've rediscovered a passion of, just experiencing new things, and not being just a shut in, or being one dimensional. Um, it's definitely sometimes not the best, and sometimes I do fall flat on my face. I think one time someone asked me to do some comedy, and I'm not funny, but just kind of putting myself out there and seeing what else I can do. Or um, a few years ago, I started producing music for other artists, and yeah, I've made music for myself for such a long time, but making music for other people is such a weird thing. But having fun with it, and then just kind of doing what feels right, is kind of what I've been focused on lately, and that supersedes my career or anything. It's I think basketball. I've done pretty much everything I wanted to do in basketball. I touched the NBA and I completed a lot of these goals that I have, and I played for 8 years now. So I accomplished that goal, and it was
Mhm.
difficult. I mean, I kind of had a weird career where I kind of made a career from nothing, and it was definitely a battle to get here, but I'm grateful to have gone through it, and I'm grateful to have had that experience. And now it's time to have new experiences.
Mhm. Yeah, what I hear when you share that is that there's just a lot of sacrifices that you have to go through, that no matter what, no matter where you're at in life, whether you're a professional basketball player or you just run a small local business, that every decision you make, every time you say yes, you're saying no to something else, no matter
Mm.
whether you like it or not. And that's a part of boundaries in life. And I'm sure your boundaries have been tested not only on the basketball court, if I can make a punny joke, but also in making those decisions of like, you know, do I show up to every event here for the team and for my career, or can I finally say no to some of these things so I can show up in other areas of life? Have you struggled to say no to certain things in order to say
Mm.
yes to other opportunities?
Definitely. For basketball is kind of a constant grind, so you're always working out. And for me, I typically work out 2, 3 times a day, even when I'm not in season. When I'm back home, I'm working out all the time. So even then, people are kind of wanting your time, and you're just so busy. So finding and most of the time, a previous version of myself would do those workouts, and in the meantime rest because I'm tired. I've been working out all day. But now I found new motivation to just go, and okay, maybe your friend has a an event, or maybe there's a dinner or something, and just even though I want to sleep and I want to rest or whatever, I want to go stay at home, I don't want to go outside, just forcing myself to just say yes to those things
Mhm.
is is almost like I'm saying no to being complacent where I am. I mean, so many amazing things have happened from just being there or just showing up to things. I meet so many new people, and I get put on to new ideas, new opportunities just by going to these things. And basketball has kind of been my driving force for this, but I guess it's no longer my driving force for life anymore. It's cool. I love the sport, and it definitely takes up a huge chunk of my time. But now I found myself, saying, okay, I've just come off a season, or I just did this. I'm going to give myself a break. I'm going to give myself some weeks where I set aside time to do something completely different, something
Mhm.
that I would never have done otherwise. And um, it's kind of just, I still struggle with it,
Mhm.
but it's something that I definitely strive to do more now that I know that there's more to life, and there's so many joys that are undiscovered.
Yeah, I can definitely relate in the identity of getting stuck to an identity in your life. In your case, whether it was with basketball or your family, in my case, I built a following initially of being a physiotherapist and making certain videos online and, garnering all these followers. And when I finally was shifting away from that into this new identity and wanting to do coaching and live my life in a different way, it was like this whole identity breakdown because I spent 7 years and $100,000 trying to get this doctorate degree. And it felt like I was dying in a way. A part of me was dying, and it was hard for me to let go because it felt embarrassing in a way. And I didn't know how to fully step into this new person. And so I appreciate you sharing that you're in this place in life, well, where it's not that you're fully trying to let go of Adam, the basketball player, but exploring other parts of who Adam is and what he enjoys, because I know there's a lot of men out there who are in that transitory phase where they want to get out of this previous identity where other people have maybe stuck them in and think that's all they are. They're not capable of more. And they're scared to go try new things, like yourself trying comedy or trying just a new skill and venturing out and seeing what do you like and ignoring whatever opinions come your way and facing whatever embarrassment comes. And so with that, I know you said music's a big part of your life. I'm a drummer myself. I
Oh,
love music, and
nice.
it's something I struggle to implement in my life because I've been traveling as well. I'm living here in Guatemala. I'm in an apartment. I
Mm.
think my neighbors would get really pissed off at me if I was playing drums in here. Um, but what are some of those things that you are looking to explore and stopping yourself from going to those next levels in life?
For me, it's a lot of it has to do with, okay, music is obviously, that was my first passion. It was something as simple as I probably have somewhere over 1,000 songs that I just keep to myself because I'm like, okay, no one wants to hear that from me. I bounce a ball for a living. Like, no one wants to hear music from me.
Well,
But like,
real quick, is it singing or what do you do?
I do everything. I play every instrument and I sing and I make the whole song. And like, to me, I've always just done it as a creative outlet. And I keep it locked away for no one to hear because why would anyone want to hear that? But after pushing myself to go and work with other artists and kind of help make their music, I've kind of been like, okay, like I could put a song out there. It's not going to kill me to
Mhm.
release a song, or it's not going to kill me to go and do a reality show, or it's not going to kill me to just try something new and try a new avenue. And so for me, as I move kind of more into the entertainment brand of things and move more towards, I guess, what I can do entertainment wise outside of basketball, it's been it's been kind of a weird period of discovery to where I kind of find these new niches that I really like, and the most important thing for me is not stopping myself from doing it. So many times I second guess it, or I'm about to share a song with a friend of mine or somebody, and I'm just like, well, they don't need to hear this, or oh, this is too personal, or oh, this is too different from what they perceive me as. And at the end of the day, it comes down to embracing Adam Drexler in my entirety. You know, I, basketball is a part of me, but music is another part of me. And trying to separate the two is kind of not not what I want to be about. I don't want to just kind of have this whole personality shift. So making sure that I'm not just one dimensional in that regard,
Mhm.
and being genuine with what I do. A lot of people ask me, and the basketball in me is like, oh, I'm every day in the gym and I'm working out every day. And I'm like, yeah, I've worked out, but I also, played some video games. I made some music. I, you know, watched a rom com. Like there are things that I guess the perception is that I don't do, but I mean, everyone kind of has their deep dark secrets, and for me, I kind of made a decision to kind of share my secrets. Like,
Mhm.
why hide this part of me away?
Yeah, I would agree that there's some parts of life that don't need to necessarily be put out there, especially if you have agreements with other people in your life.
Yeah.
You know, there's parts of my life that I don't put out there. It's just not necessary. But I
Yeah.
do have learned to be vulnerable and share because that's where people can resonate and see themselves in you, and we can have these legit real conversations, which are unfortunately hard to come by nowadays with
Yeah.
superficiality and materialism and social media. And what I hear when there was almost like this little shame that came up of not wanting to share my music with the world, and I'm curious what's underneath that. Is there a fear of what's going to happen when you put that out?
Um, I think mainly it's I think most of my entire life I've kind of built up this persona of always being happy. I've always got a smile on my face, and I've always, you know, whatever happens, I'm flowing with it. No worries. I'm never gonna freak out. Um, and a lot of those, it's not that I don't have those emotions, it's that I channel those emotions into other things. And for me, one of the things that the biggest thing I channel that emotion into is my music. So sometimes my music is not happy. I mean, it doesn't it'll match up with how I, look or anything like that. So some of it is sad, some of it is touches on themes that I would never talk to anyone about.
Mm,
Um, and just being afraid for people to see me that way, or being afraid to share that Adam had a bad day is kind of terrifying to me, because um, to bring back up my mentor, I never saw him have a bad day. And that's him, my father. These are two people who they never have a bad day. They always have a smile on their face. They never seem to lose control of anything, and they always have this mellow kind of vibe about them. And that's how I was raised to be. Um, so when I have this creative outlet where I'm allowed to pour my emotions into my art, it kind of comes out in a way that no one has ever experienced for me. And just having that fear that, okay, I tried to be um, emotionally steadfast and trying to be secure to where, okay, other people around me who may or may not look up to me in some capacity, or not even look up to me, but just kind of look at me as someone to kind of rely on to be there emotionally.
mhm.
um, I've kind of made it to where I'm not allowed to have a bad day. I'm not allowed to have emotional lapses, or I'm not allowed to be down. And so some things like going on a show, or making music, those are my bad days put into art.
Mhm.
And it's terrifying to share with people, because you never want to see somebody looking at you in an entirely different way. It's like they're staring at you naked. So that's kind of how I view it. And the more parts of myself that I share with people, it is more vulnerable. It's more, look at me without my basketball cape on.
Yeah. Yeah, without your mask. It sounds like
Yeah.
you just have that mask on, like many men do, to show that they have it all under control, they have it all together. Don't worry about me. And then a lot of men, it seems like you handle it decently well, and you have that outlet through music, which you don't, which hopefully you start to share more with other people. And I'd be happy to listen to some of your music after this. But a lot of men struggle with that, and they have this weight on their shoulder, and they feel like no one cares. Or if they do show these parts of themselves, that they believe women or whoever, their family, are going to think they're weak. They're not good enough. They don't have their things together. And is that a fear that comes up for you, that you think people might think you're weak?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I'm a bit of a loner in that regard, and not in terms of, I mean, I have a lot of friends and a lot of people that I hang out with all the time, but emotionally I am a loner, to where I don't share. I don't place my emotional burdens on anybody. Very it would be a very, very rare day to see me vent to somebody, or share with somebody a burden that I have. So I think finding a space to where I am not so afraid of the backlash of that happening is what I found to be most important now. Um, because one of my biggest fears is being alone. Um, and the most difficult part of that is believing that, okay, if I open up about this, or if I admit that I'm having a bad day, then everyone around me is just going to be whisked away, and they're going to be
Mhm.
scared. Oh, Adam, oh, we don't want that out of you. So that's a really big fear of mine, and I struggle to share things like that. But it's something I'm working on it. I think everyone has to kind of work on it, and you find those moments, and maybe like you said, not everything needs to be shared. But for me, finding that I don't have to, put a smile and tap dance every time, every day. When there's some days where I'm not feeling it, and I can still obviously be in control and treat people kindly. There's never an excuse to not treat people kindly, but to be okay with not being happy all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest work in progress for me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And I feel for many men that same they have that same feeling. And it's a result of for many, not necessarily saying for you, you could reflect on this, but many have had experiences in the past where maybe they did open up or they did show some vulnerability and it wasn't met kindly or it wasn't supported or it was many cases are told, be a man, suck it up, all those kinds of things. And so we still carry that same feeling
Mhm.
in our nervous system, that memory of what happened in the past, and that if I do try to open up again, that same thing's going to happen, and someone's going to leave me, someone's not going to love me, like me, accept me, and I can't deal with that again. So let me just try and keep it all together. And for many, I would say, and many of the men that I've worked with, it takes surrendering and learning how to surrender and just let go and stop white knuckling onto life and just
Mhm.
saying, you know what? I'm going to let people see me for who I fully am and these emotions and some of these vulnerable parts of me. And if someone can't meet me, see me, or hear me and accept me for that part of me, then do they even belong in my life? Do they even love me and support me for all parts of me, not just when I'm doing well and they can benefit from being in my presence of being around Adam Drexler and everything he stands for. Um, so I'm just curious, do you have a space of people, or even if it's one person, where you do feel comfortable and safe to share some of these parts of you a bit more?
Mhm. I mean, for me, I'm still working on it, and this is a real work in progress for me.
Yeah.
To where I've still, even with someone like my mother or father, I struggle to share anything with them, and my family. Like, if I was to have a bad day, they'd be like, "What?
Mm,
How could this happen to you?" Um, so I definitely struggle with it. Um, but I find that I'm most afraid of showing that, and having people who have been around me for years, or people who I know, and people who I'm so familiar with. I'm so afraid of that bond being broken by me, that I find myself just not opening up about those things, or just
mm,
shrugging it off, or dealing with it on my own. And that's not very healthy, obviously. So I found myself trying to be a bit more genuine with my approach, and being a bit more honest if I'm not feeling a certain way. At the same time, it's scary. It's a scary prospect to have your loved ones leave you because of your genuine self. So for me, I think when I first started thinking about things other than basketball, like a life outside of basketball, I think the biggest shame I felt was in how I would approach my father with this. I spent my a lot of my life, pursuing a career like his, and pursuing this sport which I love, and basketball. Even though, like, my father's really cool, very dimensional, but basketball has been the tether between me and him forever. If we're
mm,
not talking about basketball, we literally talk about nothing else.
mm,
I don't think me or him could tell each other anything else about our lives. It's
mm,
just been basketball, and that's not the same relationship he has with my brother or my sister. It's just kind of how it's been with us, and it's because of me. I don't share other things. Even my mother's the same way. You know, outside of basketball, she has no clue what I do. Or
Hmm.
the funniest thing was after I came back from the reality show, no one even in my family knew that I was on this show. No one's seen it. So it's just, to me, I've kind of built up this persona, and it is my fault. It's easy to kind of point the finger and say, "Oh, well, they're not trying to get to know me," but at the same time, I haven't given them someone to know. I've given them one thing because it's safe. Basketball is a safety net. Okay, Adam, how are you doing? Oh, something, something, basketball,
Yeah.
thumbs up. And that's my excuse. And I just kind of use that excuse or pass for such a long time, to where now I find myself wanting to share. Okay, hey, as basketball winds down, um, hey, Adam, how are you doing with this? Well, actually, I've been making an album, or actually, I was working with this artist, or actually, I was, you know, I took a acting lesson, or I went out dancing, or whatever I did. I find myself wanting to share those moments, and
Mm-hmm.
it's scary because you may lose some people in the process, but the other side of that is you may gain more, or you may get to know those people a lot better. So that's what I'm looking forward to most after this season, is really putting in the effort to share that part of me.
100%, man. And yeah, I kind of resonate with what you shared a bit. Now, my family is a bit different, and my dad had emotional issues, and he had more outbursts and stuff. But I didn't get to see a role model of what it meant to have vulnerable conversation and openness about certain things. He didn't really talk about much. And so it wasn't normalized in my eyes. And I have an older brother, and he had the same role model as my dad. And so there wasn't that normalization of those vulnerable conversations outside of how was work, how was this. And I can see that in maybe a little of the relationship you have with your dad, of we just talk about basketball, but we never go into those deeper conversations. And so it never normalized it for me, and maybe for yourself, to talk about these other things and to quote unquote go there. And I'm sure in your case, coming from this high achiever family, there's high expectations of you to be okay and to have it all together and be successful. And I can't imagine what that pressure might be like. Now, with that, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll go into some rapid fires to finish up for the
All
day.
right.
Uh, this podcast, it's called Rage On. It's called that for a reason, because in my life, I've felt I've had to rage on or forge forward through a lot of struggles and pain, and gone through cycles of depression and breakups and changes in our identity, right? Transitions in life. And I know a lot of men feel that same way, that maybe they aren't supported, that it doesn't feel like anyone cares about them. And they have to find that thing or that person that they rage on for out of love, that they do it out of love, that rage is a greatest form of love. And so I'm curious for you. I know you went through that bit of a depression with the Rockets, and now that you're moving forward and soon to be transitioning, and throughout your life, what or who has driven you to rage on through life as you've continued to get here today?
Um, I think, to me, it's my friends, and a lot of them don't even know this. You're one of them. It's a lot of people that I see. To me, I love to just kind of watch people, and I love to watch friends, and I just love to keep up with what people do. And seeing everybody else have these pursuits of passion, seeing everybody else have these moments where I can see them pursuing a goal. So there have been times in the past where I remember I've looked at your content and been like, wow, Kyle's, he's putting in such an effort. If I was to put in half of that effort, imagine what I could do. And it's with people who will never know that I do this. I just get inspired by so many of my friends and so many people that I've met over the years, that I just kind of watch and see passion that I want for myself. I want to be passionate about something, I would pay any amount to feel that inspired. And so when I see people that are doing things like that, it kind of helps me to be driven forward. I mean, um, I'm not the best basketball player ever, obviously, but seeing somebody in the NBA or seeing uh, somebody achieve their dream is just an inspiration to me. And knowing that, okay, there's more to be done. There's never going to be a point where I've reached everything. And that's kind of the journey, is that there is no end. It just keeps going. So just having those moments where you can be inspired by somebody else and kind of reinvigorate yourself and repurpose your pursuit. So I think that's my biggest driving force. And it sounds cheesy. I mean, it's always like, oh, it's everybody else. You all are the real heroes. But like, I mean, it is kind of true in my case, to where I really, I really do get inspired by the people I know.
Yeah. It's not cheesy at all, man. I respect it. And also, I'm a little flattered that Adam Drexler is one of my lurkers. Uh, no, I'm one of those people too on certain profiles, and every now and then I'll just reach out and say like, "Hey, I just want to say I don't like a comment or anything, but I want to say you've done a lot for me, or I respect you, or I appreciate what you're doing." Uh, because social media, there's plenty of people who just talk and want to create a personality, and they're full of nothing. Uh, it's a more impactful experience to see someone actually taking action to go after things in the face of fear, struggle, financial loss, whatever it may be. And I'd agree for myself that I rage on for the younger version of me who was made to feel incapable and not powerful and couldn't speak up. And I want to rage on for those individuals out there, maybe even including yourself, who want to have the permission to go there, to be vulnerable, to try these new things in the face of a society that wants to force you to fit in and be average when the average person isn't even happy, isn't healthy, and all these other things that I don't want to be. And so I appreciate you sharing that and letting me know that, man. With that, we're going to finish up with a couple rapid fire questions before my final question for the day. The first rapid fire is, what's one non-negotiable activity you do daily to keep you mentally and physically at your best?
Um, hmm. I think it's kind of changed. It used to be where I used to do this ab workout, and I don't know why. I'm not like, washboard abs, but I used to do this little 5 minute ab workout and I would do it with no music. I would just kind of do it by myself. And it was more so for the mental aspect of it, because my mind during that time, I guess when you're tired, or when you're, when you're doing something like that, it's strenuous, and your mind kind of blanks a little bit. And finding that moment where I can tell my mind to just say, stop, shut it down, was kind of my favorite thing to do. But lately, it's been more. My mind's kind of been in a rush lately, to where I can't slow down, and I'm working out all the day, all day, every day. So not really much time for my ab routine. But what I found is that I do kind of make a little voice note. I do little audio notes of kind of what I'm thinking about, and I kind of do it in a weird perspective of climbing a mountain, and I call it the Mountain Man uh, voice notes, where I'm just kind of imagining myself climbing this mountain, and I'm describing day to day what the process has been climbing that mountain.
I love
Sometimes
that.
it's sometimes it's a flat surface, sometimes I'm uphill, sometimes I'm downhill to go back uphill.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Hey, if you've ever gone hiking, that's right. But I love it.
yeah.
It sounds like just a version of voice journaling. So
Mm.
that's cool, man. Number two, this is my personal favorite. I asked this. This is my what food is your guilty pleasure? I know you're traveling, so maybe you don't always get
Yeah.
to have that.
Oh no, I've definitely got it out here. For whatever reason, I'm normally a waffles, pancakes guy, but French toast out here is amazing, and I found like a few restaurants, and I've been going all around the greater Tijuana area and just eating French toast everywhere. I have it. I had it literally 2 hours ago. So French toast has been my thing.
Oh man, well, if you heard it here first, everyone, go get some French toast in Tijuana. I never knew that. I've been to Tijuana, but that's not the first thought I had.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I
I love
don't
it.
I don't think it's particularly like a French toast place, but for whatever reason, I'm in the mood for French toast, and I just turns out there's a lot of places with good French toast.
Good to know. I will be on this. I'll hit you up next time in Tijuana
All
for the
right.
best French toast.
Oh yeah.
Number three, what brings you the most joy in life right now?
Um, the most joy in life right now, definitely music. Um, but music is such a powerful thing. It can bring you up, but it can bring you down. Um, the most importantly, it kind of connects you to people. So whether it's creating music or listening to other people's music, I think that's been the biggest driving force for me. On my worst days, music is something that is right there with me to get me through it. And on my best days, it's right there with me too. Um,
Awesome, man. Music's a huge part of my life as well. And I'm grateful for the times that I could sit in my sad songs and let out whatever I need to let out. Uh, one more, and then the final question. And this one is pertinent to you because you've traveled a lot in the world. Which country that you visited changed you the most and gave you the most perspective on life?
um, I want to say Japan. That was my first country that I played in. I played there for two years. And my first year, my perspective on life was terrible. I was so disappointed in myself. I didn't have a great college career and I didn't get drafted into the NBA. And I was just feeling so sorry for myself that I had to go play overseas. And it turns out that playing overseas was actually amazing. And I got to learn so much about other people. And my perspective went from kind of this, I was kind of, I would call myself a brat to where I was just so, oh man, I want to be this and just kind of lasered in on NBA or bust. And it turns out there's so many other joys in life and the perspective shift was amazing. I got to enjoy the process of it. I found myself really liking the premise of being overseas. And so I think that definitely was the most impactful visit.
Mhm.
Other than that, I think Indonesia was probably a really big eye opener for me. I saw people who were giving it their all every day and just going through life with such joy and such passion. And it really kind of made me take a look at myself and I always found myself saying, okay, imagine what they would do if they were me. You know, they'd probably die to have some of the things I had. And not everyone. I mean, there's so many people in Indonesia are chilling and it was so cool. But every now and then I would meet or talk to somebody who just literally came from nothing and
Mhm.
they're having a better day than me. And I just felt terrible because I'm like, okay, imagine what they would do in my case, and they'd probably be laughing at me, you know, if they knew that I was feeling bad about myself or whatever. So I think that was another very impactful country to visit.
I can only imagine the amount of attention you got in Indonesia.
Oh yeah, I loved
being
it there.
being
The
six
people
foot.
were so
Yeah,
the people were so nice. They were
yeah.
I took to like going. I like to hang out with like so if people message me on Instagram or fans of the game. Like I'll go and hang out with them, and I got to meet so many cool people. I loved it there.
That's awesome. I love that. And I haven't been to um, Bali or Jakarta or anything, but I've been to Japan. Love it there. And so I
Mhm.
agree. It's definitely a big change from the US. We'll say that.
Yeah.
But last question for you. This is something that I believe I have this specific question because I want to know it's 2024. Things are wild. Everything's changing. And I wish everyone had this opportunity. So if at this moment I hit a button on my table and your microphone would speak to the entire world and everyone could understand you, everyone knew English for the time that I hit this button, What message would you share with every human being at this current moment in society throughout the chaos we're going through?
Um, I think I would say that every moment kind of matters. It and not to say like, oh, cherish or well, yes, to say cherish the moment. But in truth, you never know what's going to happen. There's so much uncertainty. Um, you never know. The next hug you give could be the last. The next words you say to somebody could be the last words you ever say to them, or the last encounter you have could change somebody's life forever. And I think I wasn't very conscious of that a while in my past, and I was just going through life thinking that there's going to be something better, or there's going to be something that peaks, or and it turns out that life is a series of peaks, and um, I wish I could have known that every moment has such weight, has such value, and to just be very careful, take a second, think twice before you say something, or think twice. The next hug you give, appreciate that hug. The next words you say to somebody, think about what you're saying. Is it a kind message? Is that what you would want someone to hear if they were to be the last thing they hear from you? So, not to be all deep and dark about it, but it's definitely things I wish I could say differently, or things I wish I could have done differently if I had known the weight of them. And it's something that you may not feel the weight of until years down the road, but that's definitely kind of what I've learned.
Beautiful message, man. Your mic is off and you cannot talk to the world anymore. Awesome, man. It's been beautiful to connect further, Adam, and really get to know you outside of basketball and who you are as a man. And I respect you for everything that you've opened up about today, and really feel more connected as a result of your vulnerability. So I
Oh.
just want to encourage you to keep going there and keep
Thanks so much,
sharing.
Kyle.
You're welcome,
I
man.
had fun. That was cool, Kyle. Thanks so much for having me, man. I
You're,
appreciate it.
you're welcome, man. And just so I could put it in the show notes and let people know what you're doing right now. And maybe I could put a link to your music. Where can people connect with you if they want to learn more, follow your journey as you begin some of these new transitions in life?
Yeah, I'm Instagram, Drex Glides too, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm on right now. I might be doing some TikTok in the future, but yeah, for the most part, I try to do everything through Instagram. But people
Cool,
can
man.
always reach out to me. I think my email is on there. I'm always open to anything.
Awesome. I'll make sure to share that. And if you have a link to your music, I'll share that too. And for anyone
Okay.
out there who wants to watch me get rejected and Adam have a better time than me, you can go check out the one that got away on Amazon Prime if you want to see us have the time of our lives on reality TV. That's a conversation for another day. But it's been a pleasure. Adam Drexler, everyone.